Okay. Hey everyone, I'm Emily, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about my experience selling at art markets. So to start us off, let me introduce why I decided to start selling at art markets and a little how I got into it in the first place. So back in March, maybe April of this year, I decided that I was going to start my shop. I'd been wanting to open a shop for a while, just an online shop to sell art prints and stickers. I wasn't expecting to make a lot of sales, but it was something that I really wanted to do, and I didn't want my follower count or skill level to be a barrier for me. Now, I did start that shop. I did hit that goal, which was just to start it, not to necessarily make any sales. And from the time of starting it to now, I have made 3 sales on that shop. And that's totally okay. Those sales were mostly friends and family, and I still really appreciate the support that they gave me. But I really wanted to get a little more reach and push myself a little more. So fast forward another month or so, actually, rewind a month. A good friend of mine reached out, and she had recently started selling earrings at markets in the city I live in. And she had been doing really well at them. And so I started shadowing her at these events. I would go and I'd help her out, and I saw that there was just something different about interacting with people when it comes to selling your product and also just enjoying artwork and the creations that you've made. And so I decided, why not try? I already have my business license. There's a lot of great markets in my city, and I have some connections. So I decided to go ahead and apply. So luckily, this friend of mine had a few connections already. She had already done a lot of markets, and so I was able to ask her which markets were good to apply to and whether or not we could table together. So luckily, she knew of a market that we could actually table share, or booth share actually would be their correct term. And so I decided that that would be the best thing to start with. So one of the perks of booth sharing is A, you're not alone. B, in this case, I was able to try out tabling at an art market without buying everything that you need. So when you go to a market like this, it's pretty normal to need a tent, tables, chairs, everything that you need to display your products. And while a lot of these markets actually have tents that they'll rent out to you, it's kind of nice to try it out without buying your own. I've got a really happy boy here. Little detour, but he likes to interrupt anytime I'm filming. And he's adorable, but I also would like to film this without interruption, bud. We'll see if that happens. So I signed up for the market and decided just to go for it. So I should actually also talk about the application process for a market like this. So for most local markets, it's going to be a bit different from something like a Comic-Con or a bigger convention. I pretty much just had to fill out my name, my address, my business license, and I also had to include links of my Instagram, my website, and a small biography about myself. And they got back to me pretty quickly. So it really isn't that daunting. It's a lot less scary than applying for a gallery or probably even a convention. So I definitely recommend trying. The likelihood of you getting rejected is actually quite small, depending on the size of the market. So starting off, I actually already had quite a few products left from my shop launch. So I decided that I would sell those, and I also decided to sell a couple of other prints and stickers. I had to think about what the general public including the general public of my city, would want to buy at something like this. So I chose a couple of botanical illustrations and I turned those into both prints and stickers. Next step on my list was to figure out how I was going to display said products. So I watched a bunch of YouTube videos and went to Daiso. I'm really lucky that I have multiple Daisos in my city and I was able to buy a couple of different things. We got more than one bag here. Okay. So first I got a number of these bulletin boards here. I thought maybe I could pin some prints here. I haven't figured out how to pin without holes, but I've got a couple ideas. But I figured I could maybe use these bulletin boards to display some prints. Got them in a couple different sizes. I might also be able to display some stickers on here as well. Got these little mini easels. And I realized that I was gonna need a way to prop up these little bulletin boards. And boom, they actually fit right on the easel. And so that is how I'm gonna hold these up. And hopefully this is going to be an outdoor market, so it's possible that this will be a little bit of an issue with the wind, but we will see. I also got, this isn't actually a bulletin board, there's like an extra little plastic cover here and these little hooks, and it opens up. Let's see. I have one already kind of unwrapped because I was looking to see how they worked. But yeah, they open up kind of like this. And I figured I wanted to sell a couple originals or try that I could put my little originals in this box right here. So we're gonna see how that works. But I thought it was a good way to protect them while also not investing in frames quite yet. At some point I would love to sell framed artwork at a market, but I just don't think I'm at that point. Got another little easel. I tried to get a few extra for the bulletin boards. I don't have a ton of product that I'm selling here this time, but I wanted to have my options. I also found this cute little sign. I figured I could write a price on it or something. I haven't quite figured out what I'm gonna use it for yet. But I got that and a little chalkboard marker, so I think that that's gonna be fun. This is probably more for painting than for the market, but it's kind of hard to resist when you're at Daiso not to buy washi tape. Also got these cute little die cut stickers. I use a lot of these colors in my artwork, so I thought maybe I can put these on the bulletin boards. I'm not sure yet, but I think they're really cute. And let's see, what else do I have here? Got these little flowers. I thought maybe I could cut and glue these on. I haven't decided if I'll do that yet. I love the colors, but they do look a little cheap, so we'll see if that works for the setup at all. So yeah, that's all the things that I got. I also ordered a tablecloth in the mail, and we're gonna see how it all works. In a little bit, I'm actually gonna do a little faux setup. That way I'm prepared for the day of the market and I'm not trying to figure it all out on the fly. Some of what I did not include in that video was the table and the tablecloth that I got. But that was kind of what I decided to start off with. Later I did end up buying a tent, but I wanted to start small and not overinvest in something I wasn't sure I was going to want to continue to do. So the last thing I did before the market was I did a mock setup. I didn't want to go there the day of and have no clue what I was doing. Excuse me. He just found a cat toy on the couch. So I did a little mock setup, and our little guest over there, loved this process, but I just decided to do a bit of a test run. I wanted to make sure that everything I got was sturdy and that it would work well for the day of. That way I wasn't super stressed and trying to figure it out an hour before the market began. So come the day of the actual market, I drove down there, and probably the most stressful thing was figuring out where to drive into the market. Luckily, my friend gave me quite a bit of information ahead of time, and the market also sent maps and diagrams and a ton of helpful instructions, so I knew what time I was supposed to get there, where I was supposed to set up, who I was supposed to look for, and that made things a lot easier the day of. And so I got there, I set up. It actually was quite quick to set up, and I just sat there and hung out with my friend. We got coffee and just sat and waited for customers to show up. So it was actually a bit of a slower day. There was quite a few people there, but the market I was at was definitely very much geared towards vintage items. And so there was a lot of people there that would come and look and interact with us, but weren't really there to buy artwork. They were there to buy vintage clothing or furniture or house decor. Even though it was a bit of a slower day, I had a great time. I loved interacting with the customers. There's something that is so special about interacting one-on-one with another person about your artwork that's just so different from online, and that alone was worth the experience for me. I feel like social media really creates a lot of distance with people, and it felt really nice to be in my community and share my art with other people. So even if people didn't buy anything, a lot of people just came by. I had a conversation with them, they'd take a business card, and to me that was a wonderful interaction to have. So at the end of my first market, I believe I made around $120, maybe $150. It's not a ton of money, but for my first market ever and for a slower day, I was pretty happy with it. So I went and I signed up for a second one. So the second market was not the exact same one I'd done before, but it was affiliated. And so I already knew the person running it, or I knew who they were. I don't know them personally, but I knew who was running it. I had a lot better idea of how setup would go, and I actually didn't booth share this time. So this market gave the option to rent a 5x5 space and a tent. And that is what I chose. It was about $45 to pick this option. I didn't mention it before, but it was about $35 to booth share at the other market I did. And so when I arrived for the second market, they actually already had the tent set up, and all I had to do was set up my table and my banner. There wasn't a whole lot that was different from my first experience, but I felt a lot more comfortable while I was there, and I decided that I really do want to continue doing this. So my goal from now on is to do about 1 or 2 markets a month, just to put myself out there and enjoy my community. So let's talk about the takeaways. So my biggest takeaway was that I love interacting with other people in person about my art. And I also made an okay amount of money, you know? I made about $150 at each market, and for a slow day, that's really not too bad. I was there from about 10 to 4 each day, and so while it's not a ton of money for someone who really hasn't sold much of their art, I felt that it was really worth my time. So my other takeaways are more related to advice, is to bring some of these vital supplies: scissors, zip ties, some kind of tape, or I got these little Scotch squares that are just sticky on all sides. They're incredible, super helpful for holding product down and keeping the wind from interfering. That's another thing. You really have to think about the weather and the climate you're in. I live in Washington State, so it gets a little cold and windy sometimes. So I definitely tried my best to prepare for the wind. And my other tip is definitely pack everything the night before. You usually have to get up pretty early the day of to arrive and set up, so I like to have everything ready to go in a big plastic bin that I can just carry to my car. But yeah, that's all that I have to share for right now. This really wasn't a session to give advice, but mostly just to share my experience and kind of document it. I would love to share more tips and tricks for in-person art markets, but I think that will be something that I can do better once I've done more than just 2. And with that being said, I will see you all next time. Bye.